That was a tribute to John Glenn, who sadly died today, aged 93. He was quite a pioneer for the space program, and sadly he lost his life today. Somebody else lost their life this week. In fact, it seems to be far too many. Connected with the Truth, Honour and Integrity group, and happened to one of our members who does a lot of work for us. She covers, downloads the shows into smaller bites for everyone to be able to use on the phone. And unfortunately, her family had a very sad incident last week where there was a robbery took place at the house. She was tied up, shot at. Thankfully, she's survived, but her father didn't. And these are sad times. They really are. And I'm sure I speak for all in the Truth, Honour and Integrity group and all those people who listen on the YouTube, wishing Sol and her family the best. It's not going to be an easy time, never is. But her father raised her up, and sadly he's now gone. And maybe this song will ease her pain a bit. Yes, that goes out to Sol of THI. Our thoughts are with you. Our thoughts are with your family, as always. Be strong. It's not easy in this time. It's not easy for all of us to be strong with all the fun and games that are going on. But that's a particularly heart-wrenching situation that you've been pushed into. Use our group when you can. We have a lot of people who are understanding. That's what this group was created for, to provide a platform for people to feel safe and secure in the knowledge that they will be supportive. Words don't really heal, only time heals, as always. And we wish that time to be speedy. Right. This is the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. We have a mixture tonight. I can't say it's all good news, because it's not. But it is what it is. Some good things have happened, but there's undertones in the background, which I'll be covering in this hour. I won't be doing too much news. I want to get into the intel. Some of it you'll find rather disturbing. I'll give you a heads up. But, like I said, this year was the revealing the hidden. And this show has revealed lots of the hidden. More will follow. Truth hurts sometimes, as we've all said. But it's better that it comes out rather than stays hidden in the depths. So we'll get into that shortly. Right. What's been going on around the world? More fun and games. Where are we first? Prime Minister Shinzo Abe became the first Japanese leader to visit Pearl Harbor. Of course, that was 75 years ago this week, when the American government decided to ignore the warnings and let the attack take place. In essence, Pearl Harbor was the first big false flag attack that we've had to endure over the last 75 years since. It was the first sign that the government were involved in working against the people. Let us not forget that. but we honour all those who sadly died at the basically at the hands of our own government, and that's rather sad. So he made the trip. He's going to make the trip to Hawaii this month for talks with US current President Barack Obama. He will be in Hawaii on the December the 26th and 27th and pay a visit to Pearl Harbor. And the Hawaii visit comes after Obama in May journeyed to Hiroshima, the Japanese city where the US plane dropped the world's first atomic bomb in the closing chapters of World War II. Nagasaki was bombed several days later. So it's a sign of things are improving between the two countries. I just wish it would improve on a better footing than something to do with war, but it is what it is. Further signs that the banks are being strangled, as the European Commission this week fined 3 banks €485 million, which is roughly ballpark $500 million, for rigging a key European benchmark rate. The Euribor rate is used to calculate the value of many of the financial products worth billions of euros. This is separate from the LIBOR rate fixing that took place a few years back. Anyway, the same people, HSBC, JP Morgan, and a group called Crédit Agricole, illegally exchanged sensitive Euribor information to make a profit on these products. JP Morgan and HSBC have typically denied wrongdoing and says they may appeal against the decision. It's a bit like the Deutsche Bank and the $14 billion they've been charged for mortgage securities fraud, announced in the show about a month back. Other banks, Barclays, Deutsche Bank again, Royal Bank of Scotland and Societe Generale all settled with the Commission over in the case back in 2013. The Commission went on to say the banks have to respect EU competition rules just like any other company operating in a single market. The Commission also fined JP Morgan Chase €337 million, Crédit Agricole 115 and HSBC €34 million. The Commission said the banks were part of a cartel relating to products used to manage the uncertainty of interest rate movements. Yes, a cartel. She got that in one word. That's basically what it is. And it's time the European Commission went further and actually arrested these people. Yet again, we're seeing these fines being handed out and being paid by banks. But where is the money going? Most of those financial products are bought or loaned by the people. So if the rates were excessively higher, why aren't the people being compensated out of those fines? Where does these fines money go? It should all go to the people who have been illegally charged inflated interest rates. So it's all very well fining these people and these institutions, but where's the end product? Where's the people's money? This has got to be something that has to be addressed. And yet again, massive amounts of fraud, and yet again, I'm not seeing any arrests. Things have to change. Ford Motor Company this week is willing to work with Donald Trump to keep jobs in America if he puts the right policies in place, the automaker's chief executive said this week. I may have something else to say on that shortly. We'll be very clear in the things we would like to see. In an exclusive interview in Michigan this week, we'll continue to advocate for currency manipulation rules to promote free and fair trade. One of our priorities is making sure fuel economy standards reflect market realities. In other words, they wanted to keep the high gas mileage, or low use, high use of gas. Tax reform in general, we would be very supportive of, and the safe deployment of autonomous vehicles. After his election win, Mr. Trump phoned Executive Chairman Bill Ford to discuss the carmaker's plans move for the production of the Lincoln MKC sport utility vehicle to Mexico. We mentioned this in the show a couple of months ago. From a plant in Louisville, Kentucky. The discussion with Ford was to keep the building in the US. So I hope we're not, I think it's good that we're keeping the jobs in the US, but I hope we're not kowtowing to corporate structure again. You know, they've had it all their own way for far too long. And it's time that they made cars that the people want, which is the electrical ones, the new energy, not gas guzzling cars. You know, they've got the technology to modify all cars that can reduce the mileage on the gas. But then they're being supported and bribed in the back pocket, all the motor companies, by the oil companies. You know, that's why they keep the cars with the high gas mileages. So hopefully we won't be given, or Mr. Trump and his team will not be giving up too much to Ford, rather telling them what to do rather than the other way around. Right, I'll adjust the volume. This is the guest line, which has been cause of issues in the past because we got John Darash and Gerard coming on in the second hour with National Liberty Alliance. I've just increased it a bit, so I hope that helps. Where are we next? Disgraced ex-mayoral candidate Anthony Weiner was using, as reported this week, as using his campaign cash to pay for his personal phone, among a slew of other violations that got him hit with a $65,000 fine. The board voted unanimously to penalise the disgraced ex-mayor candidate for 10 different violations of campaign finance law. Mr. Weiner's campaign spent near $1,600 on bills for 2 phones and dry cleaning that the campaign finance board found were really Mr. Weiner's personal expenses. The campaign said one of the phones was Weiner's personal line, which he used for fundraising, and the other phone was bought during his earlier mayoral bid as far back as 2005. So the board fined him $2,308 for that. Since using campaign donations for regular living expenses is not allowed, the finance board hit him with another $22,000 fine for failing to demonstrate expenses were in furtherance of his campaign, including $26,000 paid to the Esler Group, $56,000 to individuals whose duties were not properly documented, and also $600 to buy televisions. But that's all very well. Yet again, a bit like the bank thing. Why isn't he being arrested? You know, if we're responsible for the petty cash working in our working jobs, and we started spending it on our own private stuff, we'd end up in jail. yet again, it's pittance fines, and doesn't really serve the purpose. No, I won't cover that yet. The Pentagon this week has buried an internal study that exposed $125 billion in administrative waste in its business operations amid fears Congress would use the findings as an excuse to slash the defense budget. According to interviews and confidential memos obtained by the Washington Post, Pentagon leaders had requested the study to help make their enormous back-office bureaucracy more efficient and invest any savings in combat power. That doesn't help. How about reinvest it in the people that paid the money to begin with, not to fight more wars? And says a lot about some of the representatives in the Pentagon, in my opinion. But after the project documented far more wasteful spending than expected, senior defense officials moved swiftly to kill it by discrediting and suppressing the results. The report, issued as far back as January 2015, identified a clear path for the Defense Department to save $125 billion over 5 years. The plan would not have required layoffs of civil servants or reductions in military personnel. Kind of shocking that in many ways. Well, it's not shocking, it's just, again, it is what it is. A monumental government waste. So, sounds like the sound's okay. Sound. Good. Right. Next news item, where are we? It's funny, perhaps as a afternote to that last story, perhaps that 125 billion saved can go towards returning some of the money stolen from the Social Security Fund or the Medicare Fund or the other trust funds that they've been stealing from just to make war. So let's not save 125 billion to spend on more weapons. Let's spend it on people's health, education, actual jobs, not minimum wage jobs, actual paying jobs, not just about barely survive. Where are we next? I'm going to leave that this week. In fact, I'm going to go right into the intel because there's a few things I need to cover in that. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's okay. Right. Standing Rock. There's a lot of talk been ongoing about Standing Rock. Of course, we mentioned as far back as 4 or 5 weeks ago that we feel, as in the group that are supporting this show, that the Army Corps would step in and block the pipeline, which is exactly what's taken place. And there'll be a full confirm that the pipeline, as relayed previously, will not be happening. Whether it continues elsewhere is debatable at this point. It may not be happening, period. Further news on that will likely be announced following the inauguration. So it seems that alternative fuel sources have been found and there is no political support anymore for oil pipelines. So that is kind of the good news. But there's a kickback, and people need to listen to this fairly closely. I did warn of it many months ago. In fact, I've made quite a few references to the concerns with the tribal people or the indigenous people, Native Americans. And this story is kind of concerning. It came in today. But discussions between the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Department of Interior have been ongoing this week as to why the Native Americans don't have the same role in land management as, say, the BLM did previously. They basically want to take over the land management. Now, the tribes are claiming there's all kinds of treaties, and of course there's a number on the internet claiming there's this treaty and there's that treaty. Rest assured, none of those treaties are on the internet. They're just not. They've never been released on the internet, the real treaties. So the discussions with the Army Corps then led into discussions with the American government, not USA Inc., actual government people. And we wanted the tribes to have a voice within the government on land management. That was the request made. It was granted. But the tribal people are now requesting sole control of all the land and resources. As in, they wish to privatize it. Now, the concerns with this is who's going to defend them if or when the cabal come in again and decide that they're going to rape and pillage. It's fine claiming back the land, but do you have the resources to manage it? So there was a request for them to have an office within the government whereby they could share ideas, ideals, and advise them in cooperation and not be seen as separate entities. And they would be free to sell the resources on the land as they so desired. But also where they can have an umbrella of protection against cabal and mercenaries. Currently the government et al. Are giving the tribal people everything that they wanted. All behind closed doors, mainly, but they've been granted an awful lot of requests that they asked for. But it seems currently like nothing is ever enough for the tribal people. They're demanding more. So talks have been ongoing today, and the tribe people were told of our negotiations to block the pipeline, and basically they called us out as bullshit and refused to listen that the government people would do anything to support them. Well, perhaps some of the tribal people need to listen for a confirm of this. As far back as a month ago, it was announced on this show that the Army Corps would step in and block the pipeline. We were certain of it, and it took place. So this confirms, or should confirm, to the tribal people of the intentions and actions carried out. So, following the discussions our group had with the Army Corps and subsequent actions taken, but the tribal people today refuse to believe the American government people, not USA Inc., I might add, had anything to do with cancelling of the pipeline. They believe it was all down to them and only them that blocked it. But the question remains, who do they think it was who blocked the mercenary groups intending to cause havoc there? Suddenly they're not an issue. I wonder why. The question also remains to the tribal people is, would they have been able to defend themselves from that type of attack? It appears not. And this is a concern that if they go alone, they're going to be vulnerable to attack again with no support to stop it. You can't on the one hand say we don't want the government or anything to do with government. We want to look after ourselves, and then suddenly mercenaries come in on the land and decide to rape and pillage again, and then go back to the government. You'll have to do something to help us here. You do not have the force to defend your own land. Now, I'm not no campaigner for government by any means, but you do have to have some sort of structure. So a fast-track rethink on their part is required, in my opinion. You know, they did get treated badly. Of that, you know, there's no question about that. But in reality, the ones treated badly have been all of us, not just a specific creed or colour. Each and every one of us. Let us not forget that. It's no use playing, well, we got it worse than you, and you got it worse than us, and blah, blah, blah. We all have been treated badly. You can't compensate the all for the wrongdoings that's been done to the people. So, on a personal note, I kind of find it rather sad that the tribes people have taken this stance today. And maybe my message to them is they need to push forward more spiritual types to the forefront of the negotiations and less of the warrior types. Like I said earlier, I did warn of this many months ago, of certain elements of the tribe people are westernized and corrupt. And unless something changes, they appear to want to follow the same path as the cabal of absolute control, and the people can go and suck it up. A case of new boss, same as the old boss. There has to be some sort of oversight, a balance. Let's not just switch from one to the other. There has to be balance. I understand from their point of view the distrust of government. Well, us whites and us blacks and us Hispanics all have the same mistrust. But we're trying to create a new here, not continue the same path. Hopefully they will listen. Last Monday, let me just go on about a further mention for Standing Rock. I want to say, I know there may be other reasons, but let's just treat it as it is. I want to say kudos to the veterans for turning up. They came from afar and holding the ceremony that took place this week and apologising on behalf of white European / American treatment of the indigenous peoples. We've reached out a hand. We all ignored it, or our ancestors did, turned a blind eye. And hopefully, like the burning blood ceremony, that particular ceremony ends the bad blood between the white Europeans or Americans, whichever way you want to call it, and the indigenous peoples. Perhaps we need to move on in harmony rather than splitting down the middle again. Right. On Monday, Mr. Obama, who's completely, as we would say in the UK, gone off his tree, decided, along with Jack Lew, to sign off on a new Federal Reserve company on Monday. To do so, they were registering fake gold via the DBS Bank in Singapore, and were buying that gold at $1 per $100 of gold. They don't change, do they? They were trying to use fake accounts at HSBC. Funny how they always crop up. To buy the gold with. So this is reminiscent of the fake accounts at Wells Fargo, remember. Now you know why they're creating fake accounts. Also this week they were stealing gold out of Africa. I did mention this in the show maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago about the marauding through the Middle East has now switched to Africa because they haven't got the funds to do the Middle East. And they're stealing gold out of Africa and are registering it in Singapore and then onto the Shanghai Stock Exchange, Gold Exchange. Except when it got to the Shanghai Exchange, guess what? It wasn't real gold again. Don't you just love it? Tungsten, yet again. Same stunt they pulled a few years ago. Now, as of Monday night, the gold registered to the Shanghai Exchange was tied to nothing. That means it can't underwrite anything. That means it can't be used for anything, and that means the new Federal Reserve is defunct. But they still carry on playing these games. Now this next thing will be of genuine concern, and people really need to listen. It will upset some. It's something I've known for a while. It's something I've kept a lid on for a while, for various reasons. But we can no longer hide people's names because of who they are. Yesterday, we received a call from one of the agency groups, and the call was made under national security issue. And basically what took place this week were a number of well-known names in the alternative media were discussing plans with the cabal. Yes, Mr. Wilcock. Discussing the event, were we? We've waited 18 months to out you. You knew it was coming. You went too far. You were given a choice to step down. So Mr. Wilcock et al. Were discussing event plans with the cabal. These meetings were not small in number. He wasn't the only one. Many of the so-called big names, or the promoted names in the alternative media, were part of this event disclosure. Now, the event, or their event, is wiping out humanity. So they think. So this is why Mr. Wilcock did his event disclosure coming up. He thinks he's protected. I have news for him. You're not. So the plan of ET from above and below coming up and giving full disclosure is total bullshittery. It's not happening. Period. What their plans was discussed in this meeting, in these succession of meetings, was to take out the grid in America, the electric grid, by blowing transformers. Should that take place, there will be nothing working for 2 years in America. So quite where these idiots think they're going to disclose anything with no internet and no electricity, no power, is beyond me and seems to have been lost on these people. Also under threat was to take out the water supply. This is their event. And another one of their invasion type scenarios. Even the good ETs that are milling around this planet don't want that type of exposure at the moment. They just don't. But the idiot ET want to rule the planet and be worshipped as gods, just like the old days. What these people involved in the meetings have been told is that that their frequency is much higher than everybody else's, and they are the chosen ones, and they ought to carry out the saving of humanity. And to save humanity, they think that they should wipe out 90% of us. No, I think we should wipe out 90% of them. And let the other 10% watch. So the meeting that took place on Tuesday night was of the chosen ones all over the country. And that's what they came up with, ending the grids and poisoning the water. Of course, they all think that they'll be unaffected because they are the chosen ones. They'll go into special bunkers or they'll ride off into the solar system. Well, they may ride off into the solar system, but they'll hit a barrier that's impenetrable. So they can throw their rhetoric all they like. Whether they like it or not, these rogue entities and their puppeteers, like Mr. Wilcock, are stuck here and will face the consequences. So you kill shot yourself. There's no escape. Following the news that came out of those meetings, a national security threat was issued, and things are ongoing. The computer systems that run the transformers have been found to have a built-in virus put there by the cabal, except that virus has now been rendered inactive, so they can't mess with the computer system anymore. The same goes for the water supply situation. It was also on a computer trigger and has also been rendered inactive. So those alternative media sites this week that were discussing events, those people are selling humanity out. Not selling, sold. It's kind of sickening to me. I came into the alternative media thinking I'll have, oh wow, I've got a load of like-minded people, only to find the same cockroaches scattered far too deeply into this community. You know, part of the reason I'm where I am now is because of David Wilcock. I used to follow the original David Wilcock. This isn't the original. I don't care what anyone says. The guy that I met did not have a turn in his eye. Whoever this current version is, it's not the original one. He's been spoken to. You will also notice in the last excerpt of Gaiam TV that Corey Goode announced right off the bat that he may have to go away and not do it anymore. Go into hiding. Yes, do so, Corey, as we don't want to listen to your bullshit anymore. It's been crap from day one. I tried hard to find some validity into it because I wanted to believe it. Sadly, I found none. A plethora of data mining, old books being passed off fiction as reality, and embellishment, all to rape money off the people. Freedom shouldn't be, or the truth should never come at a cost. We've all suffered enough without paying any more. Now, I said earlier, I've kind of known about Mr. Wilcock over a long period of time. I had to stair-step it. People wanted me to out him as far back as May 2015. I chose not to because it was Cosmic Voice then. And Cosmic Voice kind of rose out of David Wilcock and that one interview with Drake. So all the followers of Cosmic Voice were mainly followers of David Wilcock originally. So it wasn't easy to out. Like Mr. Keenan, I had to sit on that until they really overstepped the boundary. Mr. Keenan chose to read out an Asian faction script threatening the United States of America. I chose to nullify it. And according to the agencies this week, Mr. Wilcock has attended a meeting with Cabal discussing events. It's up to the individual to use your own discretion whether you believe what I put out tonight. It wasn't easy. But Mr. Wilcock has been trying to shut me down for a long time. It was him that initiated the meeting that got me removed from the radio show at Cosmic Voice. I was exposing too much of his sidekick, Corey Good, ruining the cash crop. He knows he can't take me on. He thought he could silence me. He was wrong. We did call on this show 2 months ago. All those who have been helping the Cabal to step forward now. Step down and come and help us. Clemency will be offered. Mr. Wilcox overstepped that boundary massively this week. And it's up to you which way you want to take it. But that type of interaction with Cabal on that sort of level has kind of sickened me. I hope he sleeps well. Until then, we will always have the voice here. The voice of truth, the voice of honour, and the voice of integrity. I will not shift or compromise from that. Hi all, and welcome back to the second hour. Yes, the world needs love and bundles of it. We need people to come together. And tonight, a first for THI. We had John Darash and Gerard on many times on Cosmic Voice, and we're pleased to announce that he's agreed to come on our show tonight, and it's in a simulcast. And John's going to give us an update of everything that's going on with the National Liberty Alliance, and hope things are going well. Hi John, hi Gerard.
Good evening, Thomas. Thanks for having us on.
Oh. Hey, Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'll give you a quick update. Let me ask, does the audience generally know what we're doing? Should I give a quick synopsis?
Yes, most of the audience, in fact, all of the audience is the Cosmic Voice people.
Okay.
Some listen to both shows, some still listen to Rake, and some just listen to mine, and vice versa. So most of it is the Cosmic Voice group. So they all know who you are.
All right. Well, there's a lot of exciting things going on. Since we've last spoke, we started Committees of Safety, and Committees of Safety is what our founding fathers did. Is they formed what was called Committees of Safety, literally all over the 13 colonies, and it was all of our founding fathers belonged to Committees of Safety, and it was that platform that they used in order to get the Continental Congress going and eventually forming this nation and the Constitution and so on. So we're doing exactly what our founding fathers had done. So we've got about 6,000 members now, signed-in members with nationallibertyalliance.org. We're looking at that point, hopefully, that we're going to become to critical mass. And we're filing up in Albany Court, I think going to be filing next week. These are exciting times right now. There's a lot of excitement. I heard a lot of positive feelings and thoughts concerning the election, the way it went with the presidency, and we've had some communications in a roundabout way with his I guess, campaign people or people working with him in his camp, that being Donald Trump. They're very interested in our papers. They've received our papers. They want more. We're putting together a package right now for them, and that'll be going out probably next week. At the same time, we'll be filing a redress of grievances for all three branches of government, and also for all 50 state governors. So we've put all the papers together. We pretty much have everything in writing. We're just cleaning things up and preparing it. We think we're going to be filing it on Tuesday, or start the preparing for filing it. We'll go file these, get the summons, and then start serving, and then file all the papers. If anybody wants to read some of the papers that we're filing, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and highlight the grand jury on the far right-hand side of the blue bar. I'd highlight that, and grand jury, come down and click on docket. And you'll see we have 3 columns there. One that says redress for grievances, which is most of the papers that we've already written. They may still be in a process of correction. But basically that's going to be the papers we're going to be filing. We've got quite a bit of evidence up there and the law documents we'll be using. We're going to require, of course, a response. We will be going, we always knew it would be worthless, and we never have sent anything to the present administration, that being the Obama administration, because we knew it wouldn't go anywhere, and why even alert the enemy of what we're doing. So, but now with Trump coming into office, we're serving him as president-elect, giving him more of an information more than anything else concerning what's going on and what he needs to do to correct the problems with this nation as far as the administration is concerned. Right now, all 3 branches of government are lawbreakers. They break law every single day, and they don't even realize it at this point. They're not following anything in the Constitution whatsoever. So we're going to try our best to teach these people. And we're going to be also moving into this case. We filed about 30 or so habeas corpuses across the nation in the federal court systems. We've had a couple of successes, most of them not successful, but a couple of them have been. And now we're moving these into a show cause in this case that we're going to be filing up in Albany. We've got John Doe's written in, and so this case is going to extend to a lot of people. Just take the 30 or so habeas corpuses. If each one of them is in a different federal district, then there'll be 30 federal chief judges that will have to answer, and also chief clerks that will have to answer. We will be doing serving or other papers along. We're going in, and everyone here is pretty much familiar with what's going on out, or was going on out in Oregon, and still going out in Oregon and Nevada with the Bundys. We've got a lot of evidence on that, a lot of different sworn affidavits, and we'll be going after the judge, I think it's Judge Brown out there in Oregon, for violating so many different issues. So we're going to be chasing these people criminally. We'll start this case off as a civil suit, but it's going to move into criminal suits. We're going to do indictments from within inside this court case, so we don't have to really worry about arrest. We'll send indictments, and they'll have to answer, and then go through the process. We'll collect our trial juries, bring them together, and try all these cases within this one court case, which ultimately is labeled subversion against the United States of America from enemies both foreign and domestic. And so there's a lot of exciting things going on. What we can use, a couple of things. We can use people to get behind us. We're not asking anyone to give up whatever it is that they're doing, but do come out to nationallibertyalliance.org, click on our membership, just sign in, and take the courses. Become educated. As Thomas Jefferson said, if a people expect to be ignorant and free, they expect what never was and never will be. So we need to take this country back, this nation back, by knowledge, by education, through the court systems, and through the political processes that we're now working also through from the other angle, through the committees of safety. So people need to get educated. They can get educated by taking off 2 free courses. One is on the Constitution, which is which we suggest to take that one first, because you could do that in one day, 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday or whatever. And then also our civics course, and our civics course is quite long. It's over 120 hours long, so that will take some time to go through. Anybody who would like to become an administrator to become an investigative body within your county for the common law grand juries, you can check the box when you sign up for our civics course, and then you'll be listed out as a potential administrator for your county. And if your county is filled, you can work in the county next door. These are professional jobs that we'll be putting together once we get back into the court system and take away from these servants, these out-of-control servants, the judges and the prosecutors who think that they control the system. It's supposed to be the people, so we're going to take it away from them. It's we, the people, that need to orientate the juries as they come in, both grand and trial juries, and prepare them for the job ahead of them for that week or so that they'll be working and acting as, the owners of this country within a courtroom. So a lot of stuff going, and a couple other things. Again, education is the key thing. Like I said, take the 2 courses. Go to this page, nationallibertyalliance.org. Click on highlight grand jury. Click on docket, or you can put nationallibertyalliance.org/docket. You come to the same page. Read these papers. Read the documents we have, and it's a complete education. Anybody who takes those 2 courses and reads all these documents, and especially if you really work through them slowly and understand what's going on, and they're pretty simple to understand. Just get a dictionary, but most of it you don't need a dictionary for. It's written in plain language for plain people using our founding fathers' language. We don't use legalese or any of that stuff. Become educated. So that's key. Number 1, become educated. Become a member. You have to sign up as a member in order to get into the free courses, so you need to sign up for that. But also we need people to back us up. When and if we start to have trials, well, not if, but when we start to have trials, we need people to come to those trials and make sure that things go. It's going to be in New York, up in Albany area. We do realize for people who are many states away, it's going to be difficult for them, of course, to come over to a trial. But those people are living in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and up in the New England area and even out in Pennsylvania and even possibly Ohio. They can travel out to these trials. And there's going to be quite a few trials taking place over time. It's going to take a little while to get our footing in, but we do plan to get it going. If we do get the support of the White House, which we believe we will, then that'll really give us some clout. We also are addressing some of the problems with police brutality, particularly on the federal level, with these people coming out with ski masks and full military gear, breaking down doors and forcing people's faces into the street by pulling them out of their cars with all of this military gear, SWAT teams, and so on. This has got to stop. This is America. These people need not to be armed to the teeth. Neither should they be coming out after us with ski masks. Only criminals cover their face. So these are the things we're addressing with the White House, and we're going to be pressing very hard. We do see that, Mr. Trump doesn't understand the Constitution completely. We listen to what he has to say, and there's a few things that we need to teach him. And I think he's in a position and ready to teach. I think he really wants to save this nation. He understands the economical ways and things that needs to be done to make this nation great again. He seems to be pulling together a controversial cabinet, so that tells us kind of something that he's doing something different, and he's listening to us. If we can get his ear and get him really to completely believe in what we're doing and what we're saying, and we back everything we say up with plenty of quotes and footnotes and so on. So if we get his ear and he gets believing, we can change his mind and thinking in the areas that he's wrong, address the problems that he's not aware of. He is very much aware of the elite. There's no doubt about that. But he doesn't appear to be one of them, although he's ranked amongst them. He's not with them. He's kind of lived separated from them, I think. But anyway, we will find out what goes on there as time goes on. But the big thing is the court, getting people behind us. And also, we need whatever people can give. We ask people, especially the members, to give $5 a month or more to support what we're doing here. So we do need donations, especially now with filing all these papers. Again, we have about 60 papers we will be serving. Each one of those are going to have to be served, certified with return slip. And that's going to cost a few dollars. And of course, there's a tremendous amount of paperwork and toner that's going to be required, and other mailing costs, and a lot of information and different things going back and forth. If we can possibly hire a secretary, then we'll be able to be much better at this process of what we're doing, because we have a lot of court cases we want to pull in. And other people will be bringing court cases to us, powerful cases that need national attention. But remember, we go after the big cases, we get some clout into the court, we start to get some convictions, and then we start to put the pressures on these elected individuals. We start to, indict some of those if necessary, remove them from office, and letting them know we mean business. Either obey the law or get out of office, or we're going to indict you for subversion. And that's how we have to go at this. And I think we're going to be able to do this in 2017. I think we're going to be successful in 2017. And it's exciting times. So that's kind of a real quick rundown. Maybe Gerard might want to add.
Well, I just want to say some of the practical lessons that we've learned along the way, as far as successes go. Our court watcher system has been very successful because, when you show up with a group of people in court and they're taking notes, these guys don't operate very good in the dark, and they don't mind changing transcripts. But if you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 people, my goodness, they can't even think straight. So that's been a very successful program, and it will continue to be successful as long as the people come out for that. Now, going in on these bigger cases, I don't perceive that we'll have trouble with people coming out. Everybody's going to want to see it. That's going to help, if anything. But don't forget, they'll play their nasty games. They'll try to discredit. They'll call us terrorists. I've been called a paper terrorist, because we file paperwork. They have these fusion centers around the nation now where the law enforcement can all communicate about the terrorist activities that are going on. Well, most of the terrorist activities that the local guys what they're training them to is against people who are upholding the Constitution. It's the exact opposite of what they should be doing. And it came back to me one day, somebody that was up there that's in these groups and knows people from Homeland Security. He came back, he said, "Hey, they told me that they call you guys paper terrorists." And I told him, I said, "You go back and you tell them that Gerard wants you to know the definition of a paper terrorist. And that's somebody that files constitutional paperwork that they can't answer, and they're terrorized by it." I said, "And you tell them that there's nothing that we're afraid of other than a lit match because we're paper terrorists." But nevertheless, there's a lot of steps here. The other thing is you have to remember President-elect Trump has to get in office. It's a very tenacious time right now. He's got to be careful what he's doing. I don't know what his strategies are. I don't even want to know right now because he's a juggler at this point. And he's looking to balance things, and he's looking to get in there without any trouble. I mean, I'm worried about certain things happening closer to the day. I mean, these guys are not going to lay down and roll over easy. You have to understand that. Nope. The thing that's going to help is that if everybody pays attention and watches and uses their alternative news media. He's already shut out the managed media. He's opened up to alternative media, which is really going to hurt them. And they've already hurt themselves. So this is a no-brainer, and it's easy. But these are going to be the things that mark our success, getting real news out, real media stories, and keeping it in front of the public. And as long as we can do that, like John says, I don't care if you have Hitler in a position. As long as he's operating in the framework of the Constitution, guess what? He can only do the right thing. And who determines that? It's the people. The grand juries come in and audit and look at things and take complaints. If you don't have the people correcting government is never going to correct themselves. It never happens. It never will happen. Our forefathers know that. They've lulled us to sleep making us believe that they only operate in our best interest, and we know how that works. So everybody's awake now. Now you need to educate, and you need to read the fine print, and you need to turn off the boob tube, and a lot of people have. They understand that that's all fodder. And so I'm excited. I mean, the thing is can we stay ahead of the curve? That's the thing.
Yeah, and people really need to get active locally. They need to get active educating themselves. Again, if people expect to be ignorant and free, they expect what never was and never will be. You can't fix a problem if you don't understand the problem and you don't understand how to fix it. So our founding fathers have a formula. We just have to get back to that formula. And we address that formula. It's the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and of course the Declaration of Independence and other things. But those are the basics. That's the foundation of our nation, of our country. But look at people need to get active locally. Everybody realizes that. Form a committees of safety. Go up to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on COS. COS will take you to committees of safety. There's a video up there. There's instructions. There's plenty of information on how you can form a committee of safety. You click on the button to see what committees of safety are going on. Check your county out. Make sure there isn't one started. If there's one started, join that one. Get involved. If there's not one started, get one going yourself. We connect with the sheriffs. We do resolutions. We do things in a very formal manner. Again, we're taking this from what our founding fathers have done, and we're duplicating the process by which they created this country is the same process we, the people, can use to save this country. And then get behind the unified United States common law grand jury. Again, and find out what we're doing in the courts. All of the information, everything we're doing runs off of nationallibertyalliance.org, which is a facilitator for an education, communications, and organization. We in ourselves as a website or an assembly of people, what we look at as ourselves to be. We're not organizing people to tell people what to do and give orders down. We're not top down. We're trying to create grassroots, bottom up. That happens with committees of safety. With the grand jury, we're doing something. We've come together, and I think your people know this, but maybe it's been a while. But, we have gone throughout all of the nation. We've put out news releases in every county across the nation, pulling people together to talk to them and get them to voice their opinion concerning reestablishing the common law grand juries within their counties. Every state of the union, all 50 states, have been reorganized as a grand jury within the state itself, okay, and is working through the counties trying to get that structure going. And of course, we're educating people right here in National Liberty Alliance on what to do and how to do these things. But we're only active in one place, and that's in the unified United States common law grand jury. If you go to our website, you'll see that each state has been really brought back under the Constitution as far as the people saying, yes, we want the common law back in. And then, so each state has its own seal. A state unified common law grand jury, they have their own seal. They have an address, and there's a group of people working in order to establish it throughout the state in all the counties. But all of those states have come together, and that is the power and the authority that we're coming, over 6,000 people plus, because we may have about 6,000 members, but we have tens of thousands of people that come and visit our site and listen to what's going on. They come onto our calls. They're not necessarily members for whatever reasons. So we have a lot more people than the 6,000 we have as a membership. But we have all these people behind us. So we're not just a couple of people out of New York or New Jersey or Texas or Washington. No, we're people from every single state of the union, stretching right down there to the grassroots, trying to get into every single county. We have a lot of people from a lot of counties. There are 3,100 and I think 30 or so on. It's been a while since I used that number, but 3,136 or whatever counties in the United States. Goodness, we probably have presence in at least 2,000 counties, at least. So we need the people to get involved, form their committees of safety, do whatever else it is you're doing. Don't stop that, but get together with your local people. Prepare for the emergencies. We have a communication plan across the nation that people need to read about and find out about. So if communications goes down, we have a communication system we're setting up. We talk about food and other survival needs. We also talk about the sheriff and working with the sheriff and educating the sheriff, because that's what the Committee of Safety is all about, getting resolutions with the people in the county and then getting a resolution that the sheriff would come and see and would surely agree with, because we're going to empower him more. And once we get his signature onto our resolutions, then we go to the towns and the cities, and we talk to them about them getting together and making resolutions, and we give them a copy of our resolutions to work with us to make sure that we, the people, protect our own land ourselves. And this is how we create a process to protect ourselves during hard times should they come. And again, food and communications is extremely important, and plans of what takes place during an emergency. Everything is out on this website under COS. You can find more about that. But again, educate, become a member, educate, and give $5 or more. Give whatever gift you can, a one-time gift. We do need money. And get involved and be there when the call goes out. If we're going to have a day in the court, we will blast it out. We'll probably set up some kind of phone link system so that if they change dates or times, we can get that information out quickly through a recall. I forget what they call that system, but there's a system out, a blasting system. But get to these trials that we'll be having up here in New York, if you can. And we will simulcast it. Definitely we will have video in the courtroom, and we will be simulcasting it right into the internet. People will be able to watch it, probably be able to set it right up on our website. We'll talk with our tech people about that. So exciting times, but people need to get involved. Only the people can save America. The question is, will you?
Yes. A couple of things, John.
Yes.
Given you're a A4 paper terrorist, that's a new one to me. They have some names they're calling us. We've got quite a few names for them, but perhaps not on public air. The courses, I've actually been on the Constitution course, and I got so far on the civics course, and unfortunately my time is very narrow, to say the least. But I want to stress to the listeners of the show, it's very easy, it's comfortable to do. You can do it in your own time, you can save it. So it's not a case of you have to rush through it. And it's very well done. And it's free. We've mentioned in the first hour about people charging for truth. John and his team have done a lot for the people, and all he asks is for the people to respond back by paying attention and getting involved. That's all. If you can afford $5 a month or $5 a week, fine. If you can't, you can't. There's no push on it. A couple of things I'd like you to stress to the listeners, because like most people are kind of frightened to attend court, whether it's for their own or anybody else's. They can be intimidating places to most people, but maybe you can talk people over getting over the fear of going into court, and also the role the people that attend court, they don't have to interact with the judges or anybody else. It's just a matter of attending and letting their presence be known. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, if they come up to the court case, it's really just there to be a witness to what's going on, to let them know that we, the people, are there. We want them to see our numbers. We want them to know that we are everywhere. We're across the entire United States. Again, we're not just a few people out of New York or something. But yeah, look, nobody has to say anything. All they have to do is watch, record. We ask everyone to, make notes of what's taken place, and we'll give a form for an affidavit. They write an affidavit concerning the day event, an hour or whatever time we're in the courtroom, and then pass it in. And then these affidavits, especially if there's some violations going on, will be helpful. But I don't think there's going to be many violations. We're doing something very, very different than anybody's ever done. The process is there. The procedures are there. This is our court. The common law courts belong to the people. It's the sovereign and his people that he brings into the court. That's what the courts are about. It's not about the judge and the sheriff or the marshal, whoever's in charge there, or the prosecutor. It's not about them. It's about the people. It's a mindset we have to get. We have to get a new mindset to understand we, the people, control the process. We, the people, have government by consent. And this is how we consent. We consent to our government, their actions and their activities, through the grand jury by watching them, investigating them, seeing what they're doing. And if we don't like what they're doing, we send them a little note to let them know, hey, you're doing something wrong. You need to correct this, and this is how you can correct it. If they refuse to correct it, then at that point we bring them before the grand jury, and the grand jury will give them, and we're talking about first the investigative body, which are the administrators, the people who would be that paid position, 4 people in every county. So they would be giving out that information, to our servants first, and then they bring them to the grand jury. And if they don't listen to the grand jury, then the grand jury has the ability to indict. Once we indict them, they're pulled from office, and they got to now go to court and face a trial jury for whatever the charges might be. So we need to understand it is our court. We control the court through the juries. The trial jury gets to decide not only the facts of the case, but also the law. And we're going to make that clear. And there's a lot to learn. We wrote a book, which you can get up here on jurists. And so everything you want to know about a jurist and the activities, and so you can read in that book. It's a book that will be handed out to every person who does become a jurist, so they understand what their job is, what their authority is, and their power, and who they really are. We, the people, need to feel our oats, so to speak. So you come into the court, and it's going to be our court, not theirs. And again, nobody has to say much of anything. I would say, again, I'll go back to what Jefferson said, a little bit of my own taste to it. If people expect to be ignorant and free, forget about it. It's not going to happen. So you have to become educated. And you go out here and you read these papers and you see how we talk to these people and how we talk to the judges and how we talk to our elected officials and how we order them around. This is the way, this is the nation we should be having. This is the process by which America should be driven by the people. And the political realm should be driven by the people who are through the committeeman process, which actually originally was the committees of safety. And they eventually became the committeemen. But we've lost control of the committeemen. We've lost control of the process of the juries. We've lost control of the grand jury, the trial jury. No one can get access to them. They're totally all puppetized. They're controlled by people above. We need to take it back. This is the way we do it. But you see, through education, once you start to read these papers, once you take these courses and read these papers, you start to come to understanding, wait a second, this is my nation. This is my country. They have government by my consent, and this is how I consent, and this is the power and the authority I can bring forward to make sure these people are doing the right thing. Everybody has the opportunity to do something. Everybody has the opportunity to serve. Everyone could become a committeeman as time goes on. Of course, there's only so many committeemen, but you go in for 2 years, you come out, someone else goes in. We need to share this. Everybody needs to go to the process when they're called for becoming a jurist, whether it's a trial jury or a grand jury. And those who really want to get involved, become administrators and get educated. And again, the full education is right here. Everything you will need to learn and know, you can find out on our websites, and we'll have more courses coming up for other things. But again, knowledge is power. And when you understand and you read these papers and realize how we speak to these people and how we bring them back into their place where they belong and we're the boss, that starts to give you a lot of power inside yourself, and you start to be able to reflect that power. First you have to be able to think free and then act free. That's the process. Until then, you'll never be free. You have to exercise that. But it first comes to learn how to be free. Freedom isn't the ability to be able to walk out of your house, go down to the store and come back, or buy something or whatever it is you want to do. That's not freedom. Well, that may be a little bit of freedom, but it's not liberty. Learn what liberty is. When you learn what liberty is, that's power. Liberty is property. Liberty is the ownership of your body and the decision making for your body, what you want to do. That's your business, and it's not the government's business.
Yeah. Everybody knows that the law, legalese, is rather complicated. And perhaps some people are a bit skeptical of learning the law because it's so complicated, and they think it's rather difficult to learn.
Their law is complicated.
Perhaps you can talk about, tell the listeners that common law, actual common law, is a lot more simpler than the law that was being observed currently. You touch on that,
Yeah, common law is the law of the heart. God says that he wrote it into our hearts. We know it already. We look at a jury doesn't need lawyers to tell them anything concerning a case when someone commits a crime. The juries could know. The grand jury knows whether someone injured somebody or not, whether there's a crime took place. I mean, we're not stupid. We know that. It's from the heart. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. So a grand jury knows. A trial jury understands that if they're listening into a crime, they understand that it's a crime. They have to decide and figure out if this person done it and what needs to be done to fix this person that they injured, because for every injury there must be a remedy. Common law is really a lot of common sense. Yeah, there's some basic principles, and it's the principles of God ultimately, but they come from the heart. A couple of major principles that common law operates upon is, in order for there to be a crime, there must be an injured party, and the state cannot be that injured party. So if there's no injured party, then there is no crime. Now, the other side of that coin also, if for every injury, there must be a remedy. There must be a fix for this. So if someone, steals my my money, they steal my whatever it is they steal. They steal $1,000 from me, and the trial jury may decide you got to pay this guy back $4,000. Plus the $1,000 or whatever it is they want to do. It's all about fixing the problem, and it's not about putting people in jail. Common law isn't about putting people in jail. Sure, there are some people that are violent, some people that need to be restrained, and things need to be done. We have to work on what we got to do with that, and the people can figure that out. Each court, each case gets to decide. The group of people in that case gets to decide what needs to be done. This is their community. They're there to protect the people also, but they also know what's right and what's wrong, and it's all about the heart. The law doesn't play, as far as, all these statutes that the government has created that we have to live by, especially on the county level and the town level and the city level. All these statutes, and you don't even know there's 10,000 statutes on the federal level. You don't even know clue on what you're doing, whether you break. We break the law every day and don't even know about it, by the way. But that's not what the real law is. We need to get rid of all that stuff. Law is not statutes. Law is ultimately that which is written in the hearts of men that comes out of God. It's righteousness and truth. And so it's not a big thing, If there is a statute, for instance, let's say an individual who has certain authority, and they break that authority, they overstep their jurisdiction, and then there's a code concerning that governing, the people of authority. There are codes that's good to govern those people in authority, and it says that if they do this or do that, that there's a prison sentence of 10 years or 2 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be, and there may be a fine included in that too. But the trial jury gets to decide and look at that law and say, hey, that makes sense, or nah, that's too much time, not for this case anyway, or it's not enough time, or it's not enough money, or whatever the case may be. You see, the trial jury gets to decide everything. It's all about figuring the problems out ourselves. That's what common law is all about, standing on righteousness and truth and seeking out truth. And there's an amazing thing that takes place when you have this process that we have set up in the courts, the way things go, okay? People get up and they're witnesses, they're questioned, they're cross-examined, and so on and so forth. And all that process that's going on, the trial jury just watches, and they can figure it all out. It doesn't take long to figure out who did what, when, and how. Occasionally they can't figure it out, so they got to let him go, because maybe he's not guilty. Or occasionally they say, wait, this guy's not guilty at all, Or he's guilty of sin, and let me tell you, he needs to pay, or he needs to be corrected somehow. Again, he gets back to the hearts of the people, which is where common law resides. So you don't need to really know and understand anything difficult. You don't need to go to law school or any of those things. You know what? The true law that we have is really the Constitution, and it's like this small little booklet I'm holding in my hands. Everybody probably has a pocket Constitution or they've seen it. And the two basic processes are in here. Of course, it has a Declaration of Independence, but it's got so many articles in this thing. Article 1, 2, and 3 really focuses in on the three branches of government, and the rest of articles up to number 7, generally speaking, covers a lot of little different things in between, but it's all about government. So this is the law that the government has to obey. And this is the law we, the people, need to know so we can see when the government is breaking the law. It's the law of the Constitution, the law of the land, the law of we, the people. We put this government together. This is as far as you can go. Here's the jurisdiction. Don't overstep it. Don't abuse someone's unalienable right of due process. Don't abuse someone's unalienable right of having a jurisdiction of common law. You see, we need to understand that part of it. And it's not a lot. It's really only a few pages. It's not a big deal. And we teach it online. We teach it in a course. We have it all over the place. You read our papers, you'll learn it there. But the other part of this is the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights, let me read this in the preamble of the Bill of Rights, okay? Let me see if I can find that preamble here. Okay, let me, just give me 1 second. Well, I'm not going to find it that quickly. Maybe I'll have to find it. Well, let me see if I can find it here now. Oh, here it is, the preamble to the Bill of Rights. Listen to what it says here, okay? Let's see where we'll start. The conventions of the number of the states having at the time of their adoption the Constitution. And by the way, the Bill of Rights was pushed through by the Anti-Federalists. Okay, there was the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalists. Okay, and the Anti-Federalists was for the same, pretty much most of what the Federalists were all about, but the enemies of liberty was in the Federalist group, and they were putting a lot of things in that had to be neutralized, and they did get a few things that aren't worded good enough in our Constitution that we needed more protection. And 3 of the states, or 4 of the states, I think it was 3, no, I think it was 4 states. 4 of the states refused to sign the Constitution unless a Bill of Rights was put in there. So they all agreed that they would do a Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights is 10 of them, 10 amendments. Now this is what it says. The convention of a number of the states having at the time of their adoption the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. Now, the Bill of Rights is really, a bill of restrictions. It tells the government what they cannot do. And if you read, when you understand that you read the Constitution in light of the Bill of Rights, in other words, always checking it against the Bill of Rights, anything that's in there that they want to do and they start to follow a process, but if it starts to violate anything in this Bill of Rights, stop, you can't do that, okay? And here's a for instance, they're pretty simple. I mean, they're basics. Congress shall make no law. That's pretty good. That's easy to understand. Congress shall make no law. What? In respecting to the establishment of religion, forbidding the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Look, this is simple. I understand that. And sometimes you need a dictionary. You look up a word, Listen to Amendment 2, a well-regulated militia. This is common sense, very simple, no big thing here. Especially when you understand who the militia is. The militia is every able-bodied man in America between the ages of 17 and 45. And of course it extends past that if you want to participate. But that's who the militia is. It's everybody. We are the militia. In New York State, it makes that clear. We, the people, are militia, and we have a duty to protect the boundaries of this state and to defend this state if called upon. Every person in the United States is required to respond at the call to the militia. There's the organized militia, and there's the unorganized militia. We all belong to the unorganized militia. Well, you know what? In the unorganized militia, every single person needs to have one military-grade automatic weapon. Whatever the weapon is out there that a soldier would carry, the basic weapon, we the people all need to have one. And yet they've restricted that. We have semi-automatic weapons. But, it says a well-regulated militia. Means well-regulated across the whole United States. Everyone the federal government sets up the process, but the control of the militia goes through the governor, who gets to choose all of the high-ranking individuals who operate the events and the daily process of the militia, okay? president can call the militia, but so can the governor. But the governor has the basic control over the militia, generally speaking, okay? Being necessary, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of the state, okay? The militia in Texas needs to be trained in the same way that the militia in Jersey needs to be trained. We need to interlock with each other and understand the process of how we need to, defend ourselves and defend our nation, how we operate under those conditions, military conditions. So well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Why? Because the militia needs it. And who's the militia? You're the militia. I'm the militia. You can't take our guns away. And the purpose is for the necessity of the security of a free state. You see, this is simple stuff. And it's exciting stuff because it empowers you. When we, the people, speak with the same tongue and we tell them, no, this is our unalienable right. You don't have a right to do it. And enough people are able to get up and articulate that and push back, they're going to break down and we will win. And that's what we're doing here with NLA, National Liberty Alliance. We're educating, we're organizing, we're communicating, and we're setting them, empowering them down on the grassroots level by creating committees of safety in every single county, and also creating administrations for the grand jury, the common law grand jury and trial jury in every single county, 4 administrators who answer to their own oath to the creator of this universe, and each one of the 4 controls the other. In other words, we police each other. When we take an oath before God, we vow to God that we're going to act with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. And one of the 4 individuals starts to act outside of honor, it's the duty of the other 3 say, you're not acting in honor. You need to fix this. And that person needs to repent and come back into the fold, so to speak. And so we have to police ourselves to make sure we all stand righteously and standing on honor, justice, and mercy. And that's the principles that will glue all of us together. And that's what we need to be doing on the grassroots level and working together.
Yeah. I think it's kind of been lost on people as the education has been manipulated over time of how important the Bill of Rights is. People mention the Constitution without really understanding or grasping it. There are some that know it, but there's far too many who don't. But the Bill of Rights, in essence, is just as important in many aspects, because that's the fail-safe document for we the people to prevent government overstepping its boundaries.
Absolutely. Let me tell you how I view this, okay?
Yep.
The Declaration of Independence is the foundation of our nation, okay? That's where we made a contract with God. We covenanted with God. We said to God, because we called on the Creator, we want his unalienable rights. We don't want the rights from men. We want the rights from you, God. However you understand God, that's your business. But we called upon God, and we said to God, we want your unalienable rights. And so we used his name in that Declaration of Independence. We called him Nature's God, okay? And we told them that we had the rights and that we have a right to have government by the consent of the people. And that's that's where it all starts. So the foundation is the first part of our law. And the Declaration of Independence is the first part of our law. It's the foundation of our law. It's part of our law. We use it in our court cases, the words in the Declaration of Independence. Upon that is the framework of the Constitution. That's the framework. That's the house, okay? And that Constitution lays out government, what the authorities are, how much authority, who's vested with what, who's got what powers. We're broken up into 3 branches and so on. And then the third part is called the capstone. That's the Bill of Rights. That covers the entire house. And it says right here, we have to realize that the Bill of Rights is part of the Constitution. Even though it was done 2 years later, it was part of the Constitution. Let me read one sentence again. Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives, the United States of America. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wrong sentence. The conventions of a number of states having, at the time of their adoption, the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction of the Constitution or abuse of its powers, okay, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. These are those further declarative, how does it said? Further
Declaratory.
declaratory. Thank you. Yeah, declaratory. Further declaratory and restrictive clauses. This is it. This is part of it. It's one piece of work, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. But the Bill of Rights is the capstone. Anything you read into power, when people have power and they take this power and they start to execute that power, if it violates any of these amendments, then you could say, stop, you can't do that. And whatever Congress does that violates the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our unalienable rights, is null and void according to Marbury versus Madison, and that has been the bedrock of our nation from the very beginning. Marbury versus Madison, I think, was 1803, I think. It was very early on in our nation. Our nation was created ultimately in 1792. Was it 90 or 90? No, 1789 was when the Constitution took effect. And in 1793, I think it was, we had, that's when the Bill of Rights came out. I have to look to see exact. No, actually 91.
Was the original.
Well, that was the Declaration of Independence. That was the Constitution, and 1791 was the Bill of Rights. So 10 years after the Bill of Rights, Marbury versus Madison made it clear that anything that is repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. And that law has stood the time. For 200 years, that law still sits, and it's the bedrock of our nation. So there's not a lot to this. If you read some really good landmark Supreme Court decisions like that, and United States versus Williams, which was in, I think, 1991 or 92, and some others, okay? They're great reads for the sole purpose of what the case was all about and a conclusion. Something, some great statement like, anything that is repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful thing. That's ammunition that you can hold on to and use when something that is repugnant to this Constitution, and you could let it be known. That's meaningless. It has no power, has no authority. It's as if it's never been enacted. So law is really simple. There's not a lot to it.
But you mentioned earlier about common law and not about putting people in prison. Of course, at the moment, we have 86% of the prison population who are in for a victimless crime. Mm-hmm. So the implementation of common law would correct that considerably.
Right. There was a judge, I think his name was Judge Bork. I think it was back in the 70s or 80s or something. I think it was 80s. I think it was in Reagan's administration, possibly, when he was being brought up as a potential Supreme Court justice, and they beat the hell out of him. I mean, it is said that he's one of the greatest legal minds of his time. And he made a statement that if you would get rid of all the laws that a victim is crime, get rid of the statutory courts, or if people understood when they walk into most of these courts and they're convicted of a crime that all they have to do is reject and resist it, that we would empty out 90% of the prisons, maybe even more. Okay, and there's no need for federal prisons. We have county prisons. Look, if people do something wrong, most people, once they're caught, they got their roots here, wherever it is that they're living. They're going to deal with the problem and have to pay whatever the restitution is and move on. There's no reason to put people in jail. And if someone's a chance of flight, we put these little rings on them, these electronic rings on their legs, and we'll know where they're at, make sure that they stay in the neighborhood and they don't try to run, and that they take care of their business and pay restitution if that's necessary. And keep the prisons for the really violent people. And then anybody that's on a federal level or even a state level or whatever level commits a crime and has to go to prison, they should be able to go to their county prison, because look at these families that these people have. You need to have that connection. After all, one day they're going to get out. And we need to really try to bring them back into society. Right now, we're not preparing anyone to bring back into society. We're destroying even the good people who have been put in jail. They eventually become so distraught and angry and become a problem more often. They become criminals, some of them, because they're thrown into this system.
From bad habits I mentioned this on a recent show. There's a problem in the construction industry in America currently, and there's also a massive problem with the agriculture industry. Well, given 86% are non-violent, victimless crimes that are people in the prisons, why don't we give them trades? And I'm sure they'd sooner spend all day doing construction.
Well, first we got to let most of them free. First of all, we got to let most of them go free because, like you say, people are in jail because they're driving without a license. I don't need to have a license. It's an unalienable right to drive. I mean, if they give me classes for free and I'm a learning driver, I'll go take the course, and they should basically do that. The school did it. When I was a kid, school did it. I learned through driver's ed in school, and how to drive and so on. But look, you may need a license to drive a commercial vehicle. That's understandable. That's a controlled process, is the commercial part of our life. Okay. But as far as my liberty is concerned, I don't need to have a driver's license. And getting these tickets and everything, we need to use our common sense. Yeah, look, you go down the street and a red light comes on, I'm going to stop, whether I'm going to be able to get a ticket or not. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I hear the crickets chirping and stuff and there's nobody around, and I'll stop and then I'm going to go again, Common sense.
We have to change the idea or the thinking that driving is a privilege and not a right, that we seem to have permeated society here in America.
We do this back in school. We have to get back into the school in the lower grades and teach responsibility, teach civics and civic duties, and teach children as they become adults. Everybody at the age of 17, needs to go to boot camp for the militia. And I think 3 months is wise. First of all, it's going to make a man out of everyone to begin with, which is a good thing. It's a responsibility, something that needs to be done. So let's get people to become, responsible. Let's have our children become responsible. And let's teach our children, when you're 17, you need to go to boot camp for the militia. You may have to go once a year for a couple of weekends just to kind of freshen up. But generally speaking, we're here to protect our own country. Everyone should be able to shoot a rifle and be able to protect themselves. The other thing is we need to teach our children that when they become 18, or whatever age it is, 18 is a good age, or they can do it any time in their life ultimately, that they should become a committeeman for 2 years. It's not a lot of your life. It's a few meetings a year. It's not a big thing. But you learn about the political process, and you get to see the controls and make sure we get good people in the office. And it's a whole new process than political process in the sense of politics. It's the political process without the politics, without the bullshit, I say. You get in there and you're looking for statesmen. And we're putting that whole process back together the way it should have been. And that's what we're doing with the committees of safety, which will eventually morph into committeemen, People need to understand that they also, when they're called for the jury, they need to respond. And look at, maybe you have a business or maybe something's up and you can't go when they call you. Well, you can let them know, hey, I can't come this week or this month, but you know what? In 3 months, I got a business deal going on or whatever, but 3 months is my slow time. Can you put me on the book for that? Sure, we'll move your name over there. Click. We need to be responsible. People need to do these things. And these things are fun things. These are the things that control our lives and our future. It controls our nation. It controls a moral country, a moral nation, a nation that we feel that we can live in liberty and in peace. A nation that we should have.
Yes, I agree. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. Have we made any advancements on getting court space being granted yet?
Well, that's going to happen in Albany.
Right.
That's what this whole thing is about up in Albany. We're filing redress of grievances up there, and we're taking control of the court. It's not the people or prosecutor. It is the grand jury standing as the prosecutor. We, the people, the true people, standing as the prosecutor. We're going to prosecute the cases. And we will call trial juries together, and the people within, the area, the judicial area, they'll make the decisions on whatever the matter might be. But Gerard, do you want to add some stuff in here?
So much stuff. So much stuff. One thing you didn't mention, and I mean you did good, but there's like rights every right has a corresponding duties. Rights and duties are synonymous. So what you're talking about when you say everybody should do this and should do that, you have a right, but that right is backed up by a duty you have, or otherwise you lose your rights. So that's what this is all about: responsibility, right? And look at they've commercialized everything. Everything's commercialized, which shouldn't be commercialized. They commercialized the jails. That's why you have victimless people in there, victimless crimes, because they're making money off of them, and everybody goes away broken. The people that are in jail go away broken, but what about the victims? So they punish even if they belong there, even if the guy was a criminal, so they put him in jail and they make a slave labor out of him, but the victim goes away broken. Yeah, there's some programs for victims that people take donations for, but that prisoner, that person that did the wrong, he's not being rehabilitated. Basically what he's in is what they call it the criminal justice system, and that's exactly what it is. It's a criminal justice system, because we're not rehabilitating anybody, and they don't want to rehabilitate anybody because they make money. That's what the bottom line is, and they've been doing it for years and years. So that's the other thing. The other thing you didn't mention is, look at the Bill of Rights. They used to interchange it all the time. They used to call it the Bill of Prohibitions. Remember that. That way you don't forget. The Bill of Rights, it was called the Bill of Prohibitions because that's what it is. And once you can marry the Bill of Rights, the Bill of Prohibitions up with the Constitution, that's a very powerful roadmap right there. And that's what we're doing. So as far as getting in the courts, we started out with the pen and we started going in and we tried gently. Well, now it's like splitting wood. When we go up to Albany, we're at the axe with the maul. That's what we're doing. We're driving that wedge into the log now, and they're not going to be able to resist. And I believe that everything has a time and a place and a season. And I think we're at that season and that time and place. So I'll end with that.
Thanks very much for that, Gerard. First of all, before you go, both of you, I'd like to commend both of you for the work you've done, and the work you've done with the people within National Liberty Alliance. We had Carl Appel on a couple of months ago, and he represented your group very, very well, I might add, and that's credit to you both. So I'd like to thank you both for that. John, final say?
Yeah, well, we appreciate coming on the show, and anytime you need us to come on to let people know what's going on, we'll come anytime. So thanks for having us, and look at only the people can save America. That's the bottom line, and that's my final words. The big question is, will you?
I want to mention one thing before we go, John, and I shouldn't talk about it here, but we told people to go to the site and read Docket. I realize that you don't get our latest stuff unless you're signed in. I don't know if we should change that, but all these
What do you mean?
If you're not signed in with a username and password, you can't get into the latest paperwork to register. You get the older stuff.
I'll talk to Carl and make sure that opens up. No, we don't want to restrict that because we have a lot of people that are not members, and for whatever reasons, but they come out, they read our site, they even come to our calls. So hey,
look, you can't miss these papers. These papers are the papers we're filing in the court. They are instructional, and read the footnotes. And so we'll make this so it opens up to everybody. There's lots of good stuff, and you know what? It's not boring because as you read it, you're learning, and you'll recognize the things that you see every day, and that's what holds your interest. You go, oh, I never knew that, and you'll want to read it. If you got any kind of reading comprehension or ability, it's very easy reading. It really is.
Anything that empowers is it?
That's right.
That's what it's about. At the end of the day, self-empowerment.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you for coming on. Anytime you feel you've got an update, just Skype me and we'll get you on the show. It's as John and Gerard have passionately said over the past hour, and in previous shows when we've had them on Cosmic Voice, there is no saviour. The saviour is us. That's what it's all about. And
we the people.
We've been kind of sold short on education, and John's site and his people have put it all together for you in a very simple to read and easy to learn format. It doesn't cost anything. Sign up. It doesn't cost you anything to sign up. If you want to donate and you have the ability to donate, it's there. If you can't, that's fine also. But at least go and learn where you've been sold short. Once we all find out where we've been sold short, we recognise there's a problem, and then we provide the solution. So thanks to John and thanks to Gerard for coming on.
Okay, good night.
We'll have you on again sometime soon.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
Right, we're going to go into a musical break, and then we're going to come back with some Q&A for the final hour. Given this week was Pearl Harbor week, I'm going to play a Pearl Harbor, the song from Pearl Harbor, sung by Faith Hill. Bye for now. Hi all, and welcome back to the final hour. I hope you enjoyed that last hour from John and Gerard from National Liberty Alliance. Many of our members will be familiar with them, the Cosmic Voice ones anyway, and we wish them all the best with what is an important part of the cabal system, where they implement laws and rules and regulations and statutes that don't really apply to us. It only applies to the corporate entity, which they seem to have enrolled us in without our knowledge. So if you have some spare time, go to the site and try and get up to speed on some of the documents that John and his team have provided for you. All right. Let's get into some questions. Is there any more information on what's really going on in Antarctica? No. I have a feeling that is a distraction, and I don't think or believe that certain individuals are paying visits there. If there was something going on, we would have had wind of it by now, long before now. And there's absolutely no information coming out. Right, next question. Tell us where I stand with Israel. Well, that depends on what Israel you're referring to. If you're referring to the people, I stand with all people of the world. If you are referring to the political Zionist group, then like every other alternative media person, you should stand against it. These people have been rather prevalent for the last 2,000 years minimum, causing mayhem wherever they go. So you must learn to differentiate. There's lots of people who just refer to it as Jews. It's not that simple. Most Jews are not Jews per se. In fact, 80% of them are not from that region. Most of them are Ashkenazis, or I can't remember the other term now. Basically, Khazarian. They're from southern Russia. They're nothing to do with the Middle East or Israel or Palestine. So that's my stance with Israel. I'm with the people of Israel. They're being trampled on as much as everybody else. They've been lied to probably more than most of the countries. And the issue should be isolated into Zionists. They're not just operating from Israel. And that's where some people get mixed up and just throw a broad sweep and call them all Jews. Well, no. Zionism has been ongoing, like I say, 2,000 years. It's no coincidence they've been thrown out of 109 countries in the last 2,000 years. Same people. Same policy. Right, let me just check what's going on here. Nice. Oh, that's okay. Do I know where the Ark of the Covenant is? No, I don't. I suspect it's some sort of weapon, but I am not fully versed in the knowledge of what it is. But it seems to me to be used as a weapon of war. Next question, what does NLA stand for? National Liberty Alliance. Like I said, go to their website. There's lots of interesting reading, in your spare time. It's not hard to grasp. Most people worry about the law. It's all very complicated. Yes, their laws are complicated. Our laws aren't. As John said earlier, it's common law. If there's no victim, there's no crime. It's the old thing Drake used to say, the golden rule. Do unto others as you expect them to do unto you. If everyone observes that, then there's no need for courts or anything, period. But common law, as mentioned earlier, means we stop handing over our responsibility to other organisations, i.e. the government, or the police for that matter. If everyone acts in a responsible manner, there is no need in a civilised society for courts or police. Now, obviously, certain things, the way the cabal have done, where it creates division of the haves and the have-nots, which causes crime, or they make rules up to deliberately to create crimes, which creates money for the corrupt court systems. That's all they are. Courts, our current courts, are collection agencies. The only person with any validity in a courtroom is the clerk of the court. The others are just court collectors, money men and women. Nothing to do with law. An update on what's going on in Standing Rock is the ACE, Army Corps on the side of the people. Yes, well, yeah, I covered that in the first hour. Yes, the Army Corps have played a pivotal role, along with the people connected to this show, in stopping the pipeline continuing. We further expect it to be cancelled altogether after January the 20th. So we have to wait a bit to validate that. But we did say a month ago on this show that the Army Corps would step in and block the pipeline, and that's exactly what took place. So we'll see what happens from here on in. There's also been a block on the Blackwater Z people and foreign mercenaries. And so all that, again, has kind of been done away from the public eye. But the proof is now in the public eye that what we stated would happen has actually happened. So it's still being reported they are drilling. I question who's reporting this, to be quite honest. There's a lot of reactionary type information being put out because it gets more clicks or more views. The reality is far different. If it was still drilling, we would get report of it and the Army Corps would go in. Who is sitting on Trump and what is their agenda? I thought it was the good guys, but now statements are being made that he supports DAPL and more oil projects. Again, I would wait until after January the 20th to form an opinion on that. I would suggest that those statements are incorrect and only time will tell. We have to be careful at the moment. The alternative media, as reported in the first hour, is corrupt beyond all reason. People and recent shows have been asking for me to point them to other sites that tell truth, and the answer is I won't, because sadly it's a mixture of agency people, bought out people, sold out people, and people who just like causing mayhem, writing down opinion that knows full well certain opinions will generate more interest. That's not what we need at the moment. We need calm heads and we need the truth. So be careful what you're reading or listening to, particularly between now and the end of January. It's going to be bedlam. Does removing oil from certain places cause planetary changes similar to the gold deposits? Is oil the Earth's blood? Yes, it does. It creates displacement, and that's where we start ending up with more earthquakes. Look at Oklahoma. There's hardly any earthquakes, and then suddenly they start fracking, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 earthquakes per day. So there's a full-on example of it causing changes. Now, is it similar to the gold deposits? I would suggest no. Long term, it would be. And yes, oil is the earth's blood. It's not fossil fuel, it is abiotic. If everyone's heard about the cheap oil and the not so cheap oil. I'm trying to think of the term that they used to use in the media. Peak oil. Now, peak oil for the cabal is the more viscous or liquid form of it that comes up a lot easier, and the costs to remove it out of the ground are a lot cheaper. After peak oil becomes the shale, which is more mud-like, and it has to be refined more, so the costs increase pretty much between 3 and 4-fold, as I understand it. It may even be 5. So shale roughly costs $60 a barrel to get out of the ground. Now, that was fine for the cabal when it was 90 to 110. So they're making $30 to $50 a barrel. But as it stands now, it's 43. So every barrel of shale oil they get out is losing them $17 per barrel. When you're talking like thousands of barrels or even millions of barrels per day, that's quite a considerable loss. Now, we've mentioned in previous shows that the oil is being, the price of oil is being managed currently, so it doesn't rise anywhere near or above 60 again, to stop them digging for shale, i.e. fracking. So if once peak oil at a certain well is reached and it gets to the shale, if we were to continue and we didn't have new technology, which we do have, but assuming that we didn't, all that would have to happen is to cap that well, and within 7 to 10 years, that whole well will fill back up with what's known as the peak oil. Each and every well. So that there proves it's not fossil fuel. It's part of the earth's blood, and it's abiotic. It reproduces. So every well will fill back up. So once it gets capped after 7 to 10 years, if the price is not correct, within 7 to 10 years, that old well can be opened up again and it'll be full to the top. So I hope that explains the oil situation. The price of oil will remain a maximum of around $50 and will not go below $25 due to the cabal capping it to derivatives, which makes the derivatives valid and of value. Currently they're classed as debt. Could Standing Rock be the beginning of the release of free energy from the people, for the people? There's a large majority of people now looking for and intending towards viable alternatives to oil, and Standing Rock is a focal point for this. Standing Rock, it has many aspects to it. I covered it in the first hour. Land rights, who the land belongs to and who it doesn't, who owns the resources and who doesn't, and who has control of said resources and who doesn't. But it could also, once we get the masses educated that oil is not fossil fuel, it's the lifeblood of the planet, maybe people will look at it in a different view. We keep hearing about climate change, and yet we still dig 100-year-old outdated technology out of the ground. If those people who keep pushing Paris treaties and the other clown going around the world telling people about climate change, and because they get bribes or they're shareholders in certain oil companies, they ignore the desecration of this planet via digging for oil. Perhaps they need to look closer to themselves than others. But yes, we have alternatives. There has been quite a sea of change politically towards the alternative fuels. How far that goes and how quickly it goes, a lot depends on what takes place early on in the new Trump regime. How far he can go, how far he's told to go. Maybe he would like to see it. I don't know for certain one way or the other. But if we're going to move on in society, we really need to end the oil nonsense. Does the UPU keep an eye on the THI page? The answer to that is yes. How did the MSM have the opportunity to spin the Pizzagate story? Well, they have scripts. That's all they are, script readers. And it's all prepared for them, and like good little puppets or robots, so clones, they just read out the script. I would look at it as a further sign of desperation. I would also look at it as a further sign of a sea of change. The fact that they're having to spin their own news stories now is indicative of the pressure being applied to them, and people should revel in it rather than get annoyed at it. It's a sea of change that I keep talking about. It may be minor, but these minor sea of changes are now beginning to add up. Eventually, the snowball picks up pace, like everything else. And they're now spending the time, instead of reading out scripts of what they've been doing, they're now reading out scripts to counteract what we're doing to them. So I would kind of take delight in that personally. A few months prior, you discussed meditation and how you obtained focus when you mentioned the brainstem, and precisely the word chatter resonated with me. The last 2 weeks I've experienced a change in my efforts. The chatter is all but gone. Would you comment on meditation and going forward with this practice? I do remember that comment. The chatter in people's brain, in my opinion, comes from the reptilian stem, the cortex. And whilst it's this word magic, people are losing their mind. That is a good thing, not a bad thing, by the way. If you lose the mind and operate from the heart, then you're actually doing good. The mind is the chatter of the reptilian cortex. That's the manipulation we've had in the past. So you shut the mind down and operate from the heart. Listen with the heart, not the head. Then losing your mind is technically a good thing. So I'm glad to see that it's worked. Meditation is practiced all over the world, and some people have difficulty shutting out the noise. Some people can put music on and then drift into the altered state, Some people like the binaural beats, and some people like the solfeggio music. I started off with the solfeggio, and then the binaural beats. Once you, it's like memory training. Once you recognize the frequency you obtain by being in the altered state by doing meditation, eventually you can pull back from the meditation and jump straight into the altered state. So you don't need drugs, or you don't need music or anything else that you use. Once you memory recognize and hold the frequency of the altered state, you can jump in without requiring meditation. It takes a bit of practice, and everyone's different. And don't feel bad if you can't do it straight away. You know, lots of people are struggling to shut the mind down when they're going into meditation mode. You know, try different things, whatever works best. But that's your inner peace. You shut the rest of the world off, and all the madness and the skullduggery and the bullshittery that we have to tolerate, shut it off. Go into the heart. Then you're going within, and then you're attaching yourself to the other realms, the other dimensions, and the multi-dimensional aspect of the you. And you may see things, you may be shown things, you may experience things, you may see colours that you can't even describe. Many people see different things. You know, you may be going to places that you've never visited but feel like you've always been there. That's what meditation can do, of going within. You could end up battling, because there might be something waiting on the other side. Always be prepared for that. I've had that a few times, but eventually you learn where to go and where not to go, who to interact with and who not to interact with, and all it takes is practice and a bit of patience. Some may be able to go into the altered state straight away, and some, it may take people a few months. There's no right or wrong to it, just to see how you go with it. One of our members posted an article about masked men at Ramada Inn in Standing Rock intimidating people, and mentioned Blackwater mercenaries are there apparently. Is it apparent they want to totally escalate the situation, and this could turn extremely ugly? How can such acts against peaceful protesters be stopped, and how can non-violence be maintained? Well, I am of the opinion that will be stopped, and that has been stopped. Proof is in the pudding, as always. But this goes back to what I mentioned of the concerns with the indigenous tribal people, is unless they have an umbrella of support put forward by the American government, not USA Inc., how are they, if the cabal decide they're going to steal land again and resources again, how are they going to defend themselves if they're operating on their own? Clearly, with those type of clowns, with the masks over their faces, it's not going to be an easy process, and it's something that we hope the tribal people will reconsider. Like I said, I understand the mistrust over government. We should all mistrust the government because they have not done things properly for and by the people, clearly. But some balance needs to be applied. You don't go from one extreme to the other extreme. You go into the centre. So I'm hoping that will be the case going forward. Are people being affected by Walking Dead or a kind of bad ET disease causing a sudden rise in cannibalism of the most bizarre kind? I'm not so sure whether that's actually taken place, but yes, the walk-ins do cause a lot of issues. One intel portion I missed out from the first hour is the walk-ins that were reported connected to the American public figures. A number more of them moved on this week. Quite a number. So some people who are in the public eye will not be seen anymore. Why are so many teens and young adults wanting to or actually committing suicide? I know of 5 cases right now with 1 dead. It can be a range of things. You know, this society, the way it's operating, where it's largely everyone for himself, dog eat dog, non-communicative, lots of teens, you know, of course I wasn't brought up here in America. Well, you know, we've all seen the movies and the shows where all the teens went, and they went to the drive-ins or they went to the dances and all that. All that's gone. And all they're communicating now is through digital technology. So there's a disconnect. And if people suddenly have something bad happen to them and they're disconnected, this is the consequence. This is why it's so important that we get the foundation up and running, because we'll be encouraging people to start working together physically and communicating together again. We've lost that ability. Everyone talks through pieces of plastic and metal. Typing words is not talking. It's not communicating. You're not engaging each other's frequencies where like meets like. You're just operating in a 2D world via the phone. And then, of course, these young adults are thrust into the educational programming and college and debt. We covered this recently about the 1.2 trillion worth of education debt. They're saddled with debt for the rest of their lives. And we as parents should never have allowed that. And the grandparents should never, ever have allowed it either. When the Pentagon can fritter 125 billion on administrative bullshit, that can go towards educating the kids properly. It's essential for humanity going forward that we educate them to the highest ability. Not everyone's the same. You know, like the song "We Don't Need No Education," where the video is the school is a mincing machine and putting all the kids in one end and they all come out the same. No, not all kids are the same. Some are clever, some are not. Some are slow learners, some are quick. You know, it has to provide for all. It used to provide for all. We have to get back to that. So there's so many things now with young kids, and of course probably the biggest thing that's missed out is the attachment or nurturing from the parents. But sadly now, the way this society is being created is both adults have to work to exist. The mum, generally, in the past, used to stay at home and nurture the kids, so the kids felt they had a support structure. Now, the kids are largely in before the parents. Disconnect. Then they're going on the computers or the iPads or iPhones. Disconnect. So when those people start struggling, and they don't feel they have the support structure, that's where it leads to committing the ultimate act of suicide. And this is why we should never ever give up. We owe it to the children and the grandchildren to change this society. But we also have to change also. All of us. You have to think and act differently. We can't carry on thinking and acting the same way and expecting change. It doesn't happen that way. Will we be getting more energy waves like we had this week? Why did these have more an effect than women than men? They come in, pardon the pun, they come in waves. Some are more stronger than others. I felt the surge last Friday morning. And so that's why it kind of was felt by some, not all. Everyone's different. The idea that they're having more of an effect on women than men is quite a complex one, and it can also be very controversial. And I'm going to stay out of it tonight. I've probably caused enough uproar in the first hour. But yes, it is appearing to have more of a negative effect on women than men, and it's possible that they're having more difficulty embracing the frequencies than the male counterparts. Is the Christ being incarnated on earth to help humanity? No. Can you comment on the water wars we hear about in Canada? Not too much, but we mentioned last week about the Rothschilds thinking that they're going to own all the water. I would suggest that they will have to start thinking again. Lots of organisations are getting very edgy about that particular family. Do you foresee a jubilee in our future? I'm unsure on that. I'm not too sure how far it will go or whether we'll get it. In essence, there will be some form of compensation, whether people are expecting X number of thousands of dollars or whatever. It doesn't matter. But the important thing to me is that we give people a chance to live. And the most important thing of any jubilee or any funds, be it government funds or the collateral accounts, is providing everyone on this planet with the basics for life. Not fancy cars or latest iPhone or iPad or whatever other BS technology they're putting out now. The basics of life: food, energy, shelter, clothing, clean water, clean food for that matter. So early next year, I can't give too much away, but you may see a change in the food industry. So it's something to look forward to. But Jubilee, yes, it would be nice to clear people out of debt. But the other option is, I've mentioned this previous, the People's Club will help with that. But then, there's in the region of 200 million adults in America. The rest are children, roughly. If every adult in America gives $1 a month imagine the debt we can erase with 200 million per month. We can create our own jubilee. We can erase debt for everybody with just $1 per adult. 200 million, 2.4 trillion billion per year. Imagine the debt we can erase and the people we could help, regardless of the collateral accounts. We will get funds via that anyway. But $1 a month from every adult. Instead of giving money to wounded warriors who are corrupting it, or Red Cross and all the other bogus Christmas charities that are going to be bombarding our screens. Stop giving them. Cancer charities. They're not there to cure. They know the cure. They've had it since 1926. They choose not to do that because it's too profitable. $300,000 per patient. That's insanity. And then you've got certain doctors in Wisconsin who was caught telling 2,400 patients they had cancer when they didn't, because it made him money. That nonsense has to end. That's just one doctor. Don't think he's the only one. It's just the nature of the beast. But money should only be used to facilitate the changes, to provide everyone with the basic needs. There's far too many, maybe as much as 60-70% of the planet who don't have the basic needs. Once everyone has the basic needs and we re-educate ourselves, then the idea of the current dirge on society of consumerism should start phasing out. We're just killing ourselves with it. Latest thing comes out, must buy it. Why must you buy it? Is it any different from the last version? No. Stop buying it. At one time the Earth was a 5D planet. What happened that it got so dense, and after the transformation can it revert back to dense again? I'm not so sure it was 5D. I think that's a lot of the new age stuff. Yes, there will be a transformation. It's already taken place. A change in the frequencies, and that's for the planetary being, Mother Earth. And I don't think it will descend again. Where are we going next? See if we can find a different question. Do you think everything has been pre-planned by the cabal, including any and all up-and-coming disclosure? I feel like we're living in a really bad, big-budget movie. Largely, yes. Everything is planned in some aspects, providing the individual gets a grasp on it. What they're actually doing is giving you a massive learning curve on a soul level. So there is aspects of what the cabal are doing that can be used for the good. I know most people won't like that comment, but it is actually the case. If everything's easy, you get lazy. You don't learn. they've pushed us way beyond the boundaries, and many of us are now seeing through it, and more people in more and more countries are seeing through what they're up to. And yes, we are living in a movie. The movie, for most people that listen to this show, we're no longer in that movie. What we're observing are the people left in the movie. We're on the outside looking in. We think those still asleep or still following political elections are out of touch with reality, and they think the ones that don't vote are out of touch with reality. Well, we're not crying because Hitler didn't win the election. That's out of touch with reality. Voting for your next slave master. So the cabal have everything pre-planned. They bet on all options. They've always betted on all options, so they come out of it in some way. But their options are narrowing by the day as things stand. Doesn't mean to say they're going to go away anytime soon, but their ability to do harm is diminishing as time goes on. So there's not going to be any upcoming capital D disclosure anytime soon. The consensus of opinion by those who make the choice, not me, not the people, there's a select committee as well as the council who make a choice. We really need to find out who we are, what we are, why we're here, why we've been lied to, why we've been oppressed and abused and enslaved, before we find out there's others. There's enough stabilisation and trauma, truth trauma, to deal with without adding the idea of, oh look, there's an 8-foot talking lizard landing, or a giant ant talking to you. I don't think too many people are going to find that a comfortable situation. So it's important that we start to get educated on as many things as we can. And the people who listen to this show largely have done that, regardless of this show or me. You've took the step out. In essence, you've stepped out of the matrix. What you're seeing is a shit show with a group of people who just haven't got a clue that they're stuck in a movie. This is what I mentioned a couple of shows back. We're operating in two worlds that are operating simultaneously. Those that are awake and see what's going on, and those that are stuck in the movie who can't. Now, the public event that I mentioned recently is still ongoing. That is designed to shake some more out of the movie. If it shakes one out, it's helped. If it shakes many out, even better. But as it stands, there's about 12% who are outside of the movie. Hopefully we can raise that a lot more. Will there ever be any relief for people wrongly jailed when no injury inflicted on another? Even after these people have been released from jail, will there be relief? There should be, in essence, but the danger of going down that path is who funds it. Do we the people have to pay for it out of our taxes? Who actually pays for it? You know, this is why I've kind of campaigned, and people may disagree, and that's fine. But disclosure should come with a disclaimer, a full disclaimer, because the idea to me of a society wrapped up in about 1,000 class action lawsuits, which every single person who listens to this show will be involved in for the next 10, 15, 20 years, when we could actually be doing something beneficial and fruitful of actually rebuilding our lives and the country, and consequently the planet. That's surely got to be the way forward. We get far more out of it than being given a bundle of money, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what bundle of money you give people, you're not going to get back what you've lost. You're just not. Like we started the show off, the sad story of one of our members being shot at and her dad being murdered. Is given Sol $1 million going to help her? Will it help her father come back? No. It just doesn't help. Not everything should be in monetary terms. Yes, they should be provided with support and proper counselling, not the current crap that they're pushing out these days. Proper counselling and an opportunity to be fast-tracked back into a job and back into society, and give them a chance. Elevate their self-esteem. So that there's things that can be done without just throwing money at people. Money's not really the answer. It never was. It's a control system. And money should only be used to improve all our lives for now, end the debt, get everyone back with the basics of life. Once everyone has sufficient, and all the technology is done, and all the new programs are released, and the new projects, and some of the negative ones are removed, do we really need to have money? No. So I hope that answers your question. Well, that's my opinion on it. Some people mightn't agree on it, but that's fine. I'm coming at it from a balanced point of view rather than being on one side. I always like to see balance restored. Could you speak a bit about geoengineering and weather wars, Harp? Yes, it's real. It's been going on for at least 50 years, maybe even longer. There's rumours the Chinese were doing it in the 40s, and maybe even as far back as World War II. Who knows? Certain myths and legends talk about changing the weather, going back, way back in time, with certain machines. So it's been ongoing a long time, but the more common thread of it is particularly over the last 40 to 50 years. HAARP is real. The earthquakes, if you check them out, and they're 10 kilometres, it's HAARP, or it's the frequency weapon that causes the earthquake, as they have mobile ones as well. And the other thing that most people are unaware of is some cities have geocentric domes over them that you can't see. Sometimes you'll see a glitch in it. It's a dome over the whole city that geo-engineers the weather. So there's a big one over Antarctica. And some cities I know in Canada and a few in America. And don't ask me to mention them because I'll get into trouble just mentioning that. But yes, it is real. I don't know what happened to the buffalo herd that was penned in by the EPL. Sorry about that. maybe one of the members can put an update on the page. We need some serious help with the weapons. Is UPU or anyone else got a plan? Yes. We'll see. Still trying to get some data on that thunderstorm Asma. I was reporting, I don't think it was Kuwait, I think it was Australia. If I get any more details on that, I will put it in future shows. You've often stated a channel is an unreliable form of communication, as the channel might be possessed by an evil entity or intercepted by an AI. This has raised questions in regard to the UPU show. How did they communicate, as we clearly heard their voice and a non-earth-based speech? Was it through channeling or through a technical device all of the way? To be quite honest, I don't know. There was 2 mentions in that show about technology, holographic technology. You've seen it in some of the movies, where Star Trek being one of them, where they talk to a holographic screen. The fact that there was a mention of holographic screens twice in that show suggests to me, although I can't be certain, I can always ask, that was how the communication was done, but I will ask further. Is it true that part of the FBI and NYPD is still investigating Pizzagate, and will there be arrests of high-profile people after the inauguration? There's a lot more going on similar to Pizzagate than meets the eye. Is HAARP responsible for the Arctic cold wave? It's a standing rock. No, it's winter. Is it possible that it's been extenuated, so to speak, but it's accentuated rather. But it is winter, and we're even going to get a cold snap here tomorrow. It's only going to be 58. I'll have to put some shorts on. Right, that's 3 hours. I think that's enough for this week. I know there's a load more questions, and I apologise I didn't get through them all. Saying, is it offline permanently? Answer to that is yes, as announced last September. And please don't be worrying about CERN. It's not a concern. Right, I hope you enjoyed the show. Few different bits of intel there, and a mixture of some good and some indifference and some unpleasant, but it is what it is. And like I've said in previous shows, it's about getting through the end of this year and seeing where we're at. There's still lots of meetings going on. There's still lots of positive things taking place. There's still lots of treaties being ended or signed. That's more beneficial to us. And we're still pushing them back where they have to spin on their own spin programs. So there's lots to be encouraged by. And they will not get the ET invasion. They will not wipe out 90% of humanity. They'll try, but they'll fail. Like everything else, I keep saying, they failed. So, if you like my dulcet tones, I know some of you do, some maybe not. You'll be pleased to know I'll be doing another show with the Open Your Mind Radio this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 7 p.m. UK time or Irish time. So tune in to that show. It's always a lively and interesting chat, and I like those two guys. And it's always we always have some fun. So that's this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Open Your Mind Radio. Right, just leaves me to say, if you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. You are a multi-dimensional being operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved. And you are not here to be abused or to compete with your friends, family, or neighbours. You are here to be the best you can be and do so as the crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are and excel in yourself, and in doing so, inspire others. My name's Thomas Williams. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show, and bye for now.